Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It's time to continue our talks on the Winter 2016 anime season. I've been talking about some anime, giving a short review on them, and letting you know some tips, tricks, and basic summaries of how you can use them in your BESM game. So let's dive into the anime that I'm going to review today. It's Teekyu, Akagami no Shirayukihime, and of course, Saijaku Muhai no Bahamut. Let's start with that one. So Saijaku Muhai no Bahamut, or Undefeated Bahamut Chronicles. The basic setting starts at 5 years ago. The old empire, the Arcadia Empire, fell in a revolution. So the old empire has fallen, a new kingdom has risen in its place. So our main character is Lux Arcadia, the second prince of the old empire. So now he's sort of just in this position where he's under the control of the kingdom, and he's just doing his best to survive within this new regime and sort of make a new life. He ends up sort of stumbling into, by accident, this woman's bathing area, where he runs into the princess of the new kingdom, Lise Charte, and discovers her secret. So upon discovering sort of her secret, she challenges him to a duel. The two of them fight it out, and the end result is that Lux is basically forced to become a student at the academy, the all-girls academy that the princess attends, and he's actually forced to become a drag rider there. Drag riders are, of course, this group of fighters who use these sort of like dragon-like armor. It only partially covers them. It sort of gives them like abilities to fly, weapon attacks, that sort of thing. And of course, he has two sets. He's known as the weakest undefeated drag rider, but he's also known to very few, which you learn by the second episode. He was also known as the Black Hero. So he was actually a major force during the revolution. That it was actually his work that helped the entire coup to succeed, defeating the old empire. And that's another reason that sort of things fall into place in the series. So this series, I do rate it a 4. It's a pretty good series. And the genres that it sort of fits into, it's an action. There's a lot of battles, not only in the using the dragon sort of the drag riding armor, but also with just weapons here and there. It's a fantasy. They have it's like magic that they're using to fuel these like fantasy mechanical vehicles. There's like monsters that exist in the world that they have to deal with. That sort of thing. The abyssal dragons are sort of creatures. And of course, it is a harem. It's something you can't escape with this one. He doesn't quite know who he wants to choose, and there's a whole bunch of girls that all like him. And he sort of likes all of them a little bit. It's not just the princess sort of gets on his side, but there's other characters. And it's an all-female cast all around him. And it is, unfortunately, the action and the sort of fantasy parts are enough to take away from the harem elements that just makes it that it isn't so bad. Sometimes you can have a harem anime which is hitting you in the face with the harem kind of constantly. This one's one that at least it balances out fairly well between the two. So next series is Akagami no Shirayukihime, or Snow White of the Red Hair. The series focuses around Shirayuki. She's a herbalist in this kingdom of Tabamun, and she's sort of been living on her own since her grandparents who were raising her have passed away, and she falls under the eye of Prince Raj, one of the princes of Tabamun. Now the thing is, she has this striking like apple red hair that, of course, not really a lot of people have, and she tries to hide it a lot, but unfortunately she is noticed, and the prince takes interest in her and wants her to become one of his concubines. She doesn't want this, so she cuts her hair and she starts running off to the neighboring kingdom of Clarence. Along the way, she runs into Prince Zen and his two associates / bodyguards. He's the second prince of Clarence. She learns about this later on. Anyway, so Prince Raj, of course, sent like poison apples after her as like a gift basket in order to sort of like a warning almost. Prince Zen happens to ingest one of them. With her help, he's all right because he shows off her herbalist abilities. And the ensuing incident, Shirayuki is free to go to Clarence. She's free to escape. The Prince Raj is sort of letting her go, trying to prevent an international incident. So in Clarence, she first sort of goes into the royal court area, but she doesn't have anything to do, so she takes the test to become a royal herbalist / pharmacist. And she successfully does that, and most of the anime revolves around her doing that, and the relationship between her and Prince Zen, and the two of them have this sort of budding romance between the two of them. And of course incidents occurs, and you know, she's trying to continue her studies and her craft of becoming a herbalist, while he is trying to balance the fact that he's the second prince. He's trying to support his older brother while, you know, securing things around the kingdom. And the adventures that they have take them to various places. This anime has been gone for 2 seasons. We don't know if they'll get another one, but it's been 2 seasons so far, and of course it's ongoing manga. So this one's a rate of 5. The relationship between those two is very cute. It is very sort of heartwarming. It's a very, you know, the anime itself just is a good one to watch. It's the kind of thing you want to watch when you want to relax a little bit and calm down. It's just that sort of thing. It's a relaxation kind of game. Now it is a bit of a fantasy. Now it's more of a low fantasy because it doesn't have any kind of craziness to the fantasy kind of components to it. But it's sort of like they have, you know, fanciful elements to it because it's set in this like alternate medieval kind of world where like the herbalism, like that area of it is like insanely more effective than what most people would have had during that time period, sort of things like that. There's little things like this that make it a little bit more fanciful of a world, like rather than just an alternate history version of the real world in like a different dimension. It's also, of course, a romance. The relationship between Shirayuki and Prince Zen, it's heartwarming. It's romantic, it's cute. There is other little romantic subplots between some various characters and things that occur like that. But all in all, it just does kind of, you know, it hits a romance spot without kind of choking you out with it. It's like, it's enough subtlety and it exists there without kind of being like, ooh, romance, you know. It balances it out enough. And of course there's little bits of drama too. I would call that more than any kind of action that ever occurs because, you know, Prince Zen does get in 2 sword fights here and there, but it's really the dramatic tension that exists that causes things to come into points in time. That things occur that are problems with Shirayukihime that Prince Zen has to sometimes go to get involved in, or she goes into circumstances which, you know, are always sort of like a hardship, but it ends up in the best place in the end. So it kind of balances out a romance drama with just enough of the little fantasy elements that you don't feel like you're hitting any of those sort of genres on their own. That you're not like suffering through something like, I'm not a big romance or dramatic person, while this was good. This is what you kind of want for those genres. The last one I want to talk about is Teekyu. Now Teekyu, I talked about the spin-off before. This series has had 7 seasons and 2 spin-offs, so I've only mentioned the one. It centers around the tennis club at Kanedo High School. Or, I should say it centers around the characters from the tennis club. Unfortunately, they rarely do anything with tennis after the first season, sometimes here and there. It's really that they have eccentric and eclectic personalities in and of themselves, that each one is a character on their own. And then they get into sort of wacky, crazy situations that like these characters react, of course, the way that their characters are built, but it sort of adds together just to be really comedic. It is a comedy series through and through. There is a kind of caveat here. It's another series that has shorter episodes, but they talk really fast. Even with subtitles, sometimes you might have to pause it to keep track of it. I'm pretty good at going pretty fast with subtitles. I don't usually have a trouble. This one, sometimes, depending on what they're doing, I can hit some trouble just because they can go on very quickly and just sort of rattle it off very quickly what's going on. So, of course, this one's only rated at a 3. The comedy can be a little more hit and miss for me. Also, because I think there is this barrier sometimes between, you know, being someone from America and being someone from Japan for some of the comedy that doesn't always help. And since it is a pure comedy series, again, that doesn't help. It's short enough that that's why it's pretty decent on my list, because I can still just watch it pretty quickly. And it's never quite like a dull moment, I would call it. So even like if you don't hit a lot of the comedy, it's very interesting things are going on. So it does keep your interest, at least. So that's why I do keep it rated that high. Now, of course, for checking the genres, comedy is the top one. Comedy is the one I've got to say. It's what it's built to be. It's built to be a comedic series and show off little jokes and stuff and show off some comedic situations. I kind of call it a sports one. It revolves around them in a tennis club. It revolves around them with them, they're tennis players. Unfortunately, yes. Tennis really shows up more in the earlier seasons than the later ones, but it always seems to sort of be there. You can't quite get rid of it. Because, of course, they are a tennis club. So, you know, the sport of tennis exists there very front and center in this. And I then call it sort of like a school/school club anime, because it does mainly, a lot of these adventures revolve around them being with their club. Maybe that they are at some kind of club activity and then something crazy happens. They don't have a club activity, or they're at school and something crazy happens. Or it's like supposed to be right after the club activities and they're on their way home and something crazy happens. So it revolves around them and this school club life, rather than just being like around the three characters in life. So it does have this sort of setting, which I think is almost in itself a genre. So that's it for today. I've talked about these 3 animes from the winter 2016 season. I reviewed them. Next time, I'll talk about using them in your BESM game. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, leave them in the comments below. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Shows support for the channel and the Empire. Please subscribe. It's another great way to show your support. And we're always looking for more members, more citizens of the Empire. And if you know anybody that would enjoy this video, or would learn something from it, please share it. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.